whispering Wikipedia about an animal for a really long time, but I love animals and I have a lot of recommendations left over. So I randomly selected one to read about today, and it's the Turritopsis. Turritopsis dohrnii. Turritopsis dohrnii. So I'm going to stumble over saying that whenever it's in this Wikipedia. If you have anything you'd like me to read about, be it a philosophy, a history, a game, a franchise, a religion, an animal, a scientific concept, whatever it may be, as long as it has a Wikipedia page, please leave it in the comments below. I read every comment. As of very late, I haven't been able to respond to every comment, but my schedule is actually opening up for a window, and I'm going to be routinely replying to every comment, hopefully for the foreseeable future. And I'm going to also retroactively go back and reply to old comments even that are, months ago. So, I always see your comments, by the way. Even if I don't respond, I have read it. So this is going to be an interesting one already, I see from the name. It's known as the Immortal Jellyfish. I don't know what it means, but I like that name. It hints at something interesting. So let's have a little bit of a read around. Directosis dohrnii, also known as the Immortal Jellyfish, is a species of small, biologically immortal jellyfish, found worldwide in temperate to tropic waters, biologically immortal. It is one of those few known cases of animals capable of reverting completely to a sexually immature colonial stage after having reached sexual maturity as a solitary individual. Others include the jellyfish Directosis undulata and a species of the genus Aurelia. Wow. Like most other hydrozoans, dohrnii, dohrnii began their life as a tiny, free-swimming larva known as a planulae. As a planulae settles down, it gives rise to a colony of polyps that are attached to the sea floor. All the polyps and jellyfish arising from a single planula are genetically identical clones. The polyps form into an extensively branched form which is not commonly seen in most jellyfish. Jellyfish, also known as medusae, then bud off these polyps and continue their life in a free-swimming form, eventually becoming sexually mature. When sexually mature, they have been known to prey on other jellyfish species at a rapid pace. If dohrnii jellyfish are exposed to environmental stress, physical assault, or is sick or old, it can revert to the polyp stage, forming a new polyp colony. Wow! It does this through the cell development process of transdifferentiation, which alters the differentiated state of the cells and transforms them into new types of cells. Theoretically, this process can go on indefinitely, effectively rendering the jellyfish biologically immortal, though in practice individuals can still die. In nature, most Turritopsis dohrnii are likely to succumb to predation or disease in the medusa stage without reverting to the polyp form. The capability of biological immortality with no maximum lifespan makes dohrnii an important target of basic biological aging classified as T. notricala. Let's go to its description. The medusae of Directosis dohrnii is bell-shaped with a maximum diameter of about 4.5 millimeters, which is 0.8 inches, and is about as tall as it is wide. The mesoglea in the walls of the bell is uniformly thin, except for some thickening at the apex. The relatively large stomach is bright red and has a cruciform shape in cross-section. Young specimens, 1 millimeter in diameter, have only 8 tentacles evenly spaced out along the edge, whereas adult specimens have 80 to 90 tentacles. The medusae jellyfish is free living in the plankton. Dense nerve net cells are also present in the epidermis. In the cap, they form a large ring-like structure above the radial canali commonly presented in cnidarians. Turritopsis dohrnii also have a bottom-living polyp form, or hydroid, which consists of stolons that run along the substrate and upright branches with feeding polyps that can produce medusae buds. These polyps develop over a few days into tiny 1 millimeter medusae, which are liberated and swim free from the parent hydroid colony. Images of both the medusa and polyp of the closely related species Directosis rubra from New Zealand can be found online. Until a recent genetic study, it was thought that Directosis rubra and Directosis nutricola were the same. It is not known whether or not T. rubra medusae can also transform back into polyps. Well, I assume that is a very important thing to know, because if so, that means we have another species of creature to research. Now let's go to distribution and invasion. Directosis is believed to have originated in the Pacific, but has spread all over the world through trans-Arctic migrations, and has speciated into several populations that are easy to distinguish morphologically, but whose species distinctions have recently been verified by a study and comparison of mitochondrial ribosomal gene sequences. Directosis are found in temperate to tropical regions in all of the world's oceans. Directosis is believed to be spreading across the world through ballast water discharge. Unlike other species invasions, which caused serious economic and ecological consequences, the dohrnii's invasion around the world was unnoticed due to their tiny size and innocuity. We are looking at a worldwide silent invasion, said Smithsonian Tropical Marine Institute scientist Dr. Maria Migletia. Interesting. Now, to their life cycle. Perhaps it's not a cycle for them if it is a straight line. Or perhaps it is a cycle if it's an unbroken ring. Interesting. The egg develops in gonads of female medusae, which are located in the walls of the manubrium, the stomach. Mature eggs are presumably spawned and fertilized in the sea by sperm produced and released by male medusae, as in the case for most hydromedusae. However, the related species Directosis rubra seems to retain fertilized eggs until the planular stage. Fertilized eggs develop into the planular larvae, which settle onto the sea floor, or even the rich marine communities that live on floating docks, and develop into polyp colonies, hydroids. The hydroids bud new jellyfishes, which are released at about 1 millimeter in size, and then grow and feed in the plankton, becoming sexually mature after a few weeks. The exact duration depends on the ocean temperature at 20 degrees 68 degrees Fahrenheit. It is about 25 to 30 days, and at 22 degrees, which is 72 Fahrenheit, it is about 18 to 22 days. Medusae of D. dohrnii are able to survive between 14 degrees centigrade and 25 degrees centigrade. Now onto their biological immortality. Most jellyfish species have a relatively fixed lifespan, which varies by species from hours to many months. Long-lived mature jellyfish spawn every day or night. The time is also fairly fixed and species-specific. The Medusae of Turritopsis dohrnii is the only form known to have developed the ability to return to a polyp state by a specific transformation process that requires the presence of certain cell types, tissue from both the jellyfish bell surface and the circulatory canal system. Experiments have revealed that all stages of the Medusae, from newly released to fully mature individuals, can transform back into polyps under the conditions of starvation, sudden temperatures change, reduction of salinity, and artificial damage of the bell with forceps or scissors. The transforming Medusae is characterized first by deterioration of the bell, mesoglia, and tentacles. All immature Medusa, with 12 tentacles at most, then turn into a cyst-like stage and thus transformed into stolons and polyps. However, about 20 to 40% of mature Medusa went into the stolons and polyp stage without passing the cyst-like stage. Polyps were formed after 2 days since stolons had developed and fed on food. Polyps further multiply by growing additional stolons, branches, and then polyps to form colonial hydroids. In the experiment, they would eventually transform into stolons and polyps and begin their lives once again, even without environmental changes or injury. A diagram of the transformation procedure can be found at the further reading section in this article. So if you're interested, check out the Directosis dohrnii Wikipedia article and look down at the bottom. This ability to reverse the biotic cycle in response to adverse conditions is unique in the animal kingdom. It allows the jellyfish to bypass death, rendering Directosis dohrnii potentially biologically immortal. The process has not been observed in their natural habitat, in part because the process is quite rapid and because field observations at the right moment are unlikely. Regardless, most individual Medusae are likely to fall victim to the general hazards of life as a mesoplankton, including being eaten by predators or succumbing to the disease. The species cell development methods of transdifferentiation has inspired scientists to find a way to make stem cells using this process for humans, renewing damaged or dead tissue in humans. Interesting, yeah, I have definitely heard about that before. Now we move to their ecology, starting with their diet. Turritopsis dohrnii are a carnivorous species that commonly feed on zooplankton. D. dohrnii ingests food and excrete any waste through the mouth. D. dohrnii hunts by using its tentacles as it drifts through the water. Its tentacles, which contain stinging cells called nematocysts, spread and sting its prey. The tentacles can then flex to direct its prey to the mouth. D. dohrnii, like other jellyfish, may use its bell to catch its prey. D. dohrnii bell will expand, sucking in water as it propels itself to swim. This expansion of the bell brings potential prey in closer, each of the tentacles. Predation. Directosis dohrnii, like other jellyfish, are preyed on most commonly by other jellyfish. Other predators of T. dohrnii include sea anemones, tuna, sharks, swordfish, sea turtles, and penguins. Many species prey on T. dohrnii and other jellyfish due to their simple composition. They are only approximately 5% matter, and the remaining part is composed of water. They are composed of 3 layers: an outer layer, the epidermis, a middle layer, mesoglea, a thick jelly-like substance, and an inner layer, a gastrodermis. And their habitat. Directosis dohrnii was first discovered in the Mediterranean Sea, but has since spread worldwide. D. dohrnii generally found in living temperature to tropic waters. They can be found in marinas or docks, vessel hulls, and the bottom ocean floor. They typically live in a salinity range of polyhaline, which is 18 to 30 psu, and euhaline, which is 30 to 40 psu. A short section on genomic analysis. Genomic analysis, such as sequence analysis on mRNA or mitochondria DNA, have been employed to investigate its life cycle. mRNA analysis of each life stage showed that a stage-specific gene in the Medusae stage is expressed 10-fold more than in other stages. This gene is relative to a WNT signal that can induce a regeneration process upon injury. Analysis of nucleotide sequence homologs and protein homologs identified Nemopsis bacae as the species' closest relative. None of the closely related species display biological immortality, so that is a unique adaptation of its own self. And lastly, culturing. Keeping the T. dohrnii in captivity is quite difficult. Currently, only one scientist, Shin Kabuta from Kyoto University, has managed to sustain a group of these jellyfish for a prolonged period of time. The plankton must be inspected daily to ensure that they have properly digested the artemia cysts they are being fed. Kabuta reported that during a 2-year period, his colony rebirthed itself 11 times. Kabuta regularly appears on Japanese television to talk about his immortal jellyfish and has recorded several songs about them. Interesting that he's recorded some songs about his jellyfish. I might look that up later and have a listen. That's quite a funny fact to throw in at the end there. Though, of course, it's always interesting to see the random facts that you'll unexpectedly learn when studying a topic. Now, biological immortality. I wonder what your opinions are on that and what you think about that. If a human could attain biological immortality, I wonder what it would do to us. Would it make us evolve culturally as a society, become more accepting, as more lived experience will help us gain a better understanding of the world? Or perhaps it may have the negative opposite effect. Maybe class and economic disparities would grow as the rich would be able to prolong their lives while the poor would not be able to finance such an endeavour. Interesting. I wonder what the flow-on consequences are of this study, just like the potential flow-on consequences of any scientific or social study. Thank you so much to whoever suggested this. I know you suggested it a long time ago, but I have got around to reading it, so there you go. That was supremely interesting. interesting. Thank you so much to everyone who listened and enjoyed this video, and I hope that you had a nice pause, a nice reprieve, a nice rest, a nice break.